And we're live.
What's going on, everyone? Nick Filato of Big Blue View here, joined, as always, by Chris Flum to go over this 24-6 loss by the New York Giants. Look, this is a humbling experience. Back to earth. Gravity has set in, Chris. The New York Giants are back to looking like they did a little bit earlier in the season as the Saints basically did whatever they wanted against the Giants offensively. Giants defense did not have an answer. We did not see the pass rush that we've seen over the last couple weeks. And then the Tommy DeVito experience, Tommy cutlets. Well, the cutlets weren't cooked. They weren't breaded correctly. Whatever the hell went wrong, something did not taste fine, and the Saints really were able to figure it out. We were talking about it a little bit pre-show, Chris. I want to get into what you believe the Saints did to slow down Tommy DeVito and to get him to hold on to the football a little bit longer than maybe he would have liked to.
Yeah, they basically treated him like a rookie. We kind of saw him look like a rookie in this game. The Saints, at least to me, it appears like they did quite a bit of pattern matching in their coverages. Things like man only deep, man everywhere he goes, things that it can look like zone coverage, but they're actually playing man coverage or vice versa. And, that's just a lot for a young quarterback to sort through. It slowed down DeVito's process in a way that we didn't see the Patriots do. We didn't see the Commanders do. We didn't see the Packers do. And they just the Giants ran into a team with a secondary capable of pulling that off at a time when opposing defenses had tape on the DeVito-led Giants. Something like this was probably coming and probably had been coming for a while.
And that was also coupled with the inability and the struggling nature of the offensive line to pick up the twists up front. Like we said all last week, a lot of this offense with Tommy DeVito, it's outside the numbers, a lot of concepts outside the numbers, but when you're getting effective interior pressure, your eyes are going to divert from outside the numbers to that pressure, and you're going to start thinking about it. Maybe that, and we'll have to substantiate this on the tape once we get the all-22, maybe that was another reason why we didn't really see all that much. I just think the pressure, specifically from the inside, just really took advantage of what the Giants were doing, which hasn't been as big of an issue this year as it has been in previous seasons. Now, earlier in the year it was, but with John Michael Schmidt's back, we've seen I would say, more effective offensive line with picking up twists, but today was definitely a setback in that regard.
Yeah, I would agree. And I gotta say, John Michael Schmitz, he also looked kind of like a rookie in this game. He wasn't overmatched, but we saw a veteran, well-coached defensive line that was able to execute in ways that previous defensive lines just didn't. And, these things happen. There are ups, there are downs, but overall, Schmitz has played very well for a rookie center this year, particularly one who has, he got dinged for a little bit. He missed practices, he missed games. Overall, I don't really have any complaints about how he played this year, but these kind of games are going to happen when you have one of the youngest rosters in the NFL, really the second youngest roster next to the Packers.
Especially when you can't get anything going on the ground. And the Giants, man, I don't know how many times the Giants found themselves in third and long situations in this game. Like, I had to calculate it, but it was almost on every single drive there was a third and long, man.
It was. Yeah, and I think it starts with the Saints coverage. They were able to lock down the Giants receivers. Guys were just not getting open in ways they had in previous games. We saw a few guys running wide open, but it did not happen all that often. And that really, I think, allowed the Saints to play more downhill. Saquon Barkley, he only had 9 carries and I think less than 20 yards, maybe 19 yards total. Just checking that real quick. Nope, sorry, 14 yards total. Yeah. But he was also off the field quite a bit. So I think we're going to have to check in and see if there are any lingering issues with him, maybe with his ankle, maybe he was feeling that a little bit. But this was just kind of almost even as beat up as the Saints are, missing Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, missing Marshawn Lattimore. This was kind of a perfect storm for them against the Giants. And I'll admit, I didn't see it coming. I thought this was going to be a Giants win all the way because it was setting up to be one.
It was setting up to be one, but the Saints were a desperate team. The Saints are a better football team than the Giants, and the Giants just did not execute. And I'm sure Dable will say that a bunch after the game, but he's right. Even in the situations where the Giants offense had a beat on the Saints defense, they dropped the football. Darius Slayton had a drop. Jalen Hyatt had a drop. Tommy DeVito wasn't perfect with his ball placement either. And that's just on the offensive side, which was a mess. It was not great. They were flat. On the defensive side, they were getting no pressure. Derek Carr, who has almost become a punching bag with just like how people view him. They call him like check down Carr. And he was so efficient in this game. And he was just picking the Giants apart. And it wasn't just all checkdowns. Carr finished 23 of 28 for 218 with 3 touchdowns. And of course, one of them, the Jimmy Grandpa. Guy is like almost a decade older than I am. It's wild. And he's out there still catching touchdowns in the NFL. Like he has 3 touchdowns in as many weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah, I said this, to you during the game. Ponce de Leon was looking in the wrong damn place for the Fountain of Youth because it's clearly in New Orleans. You got 37-year-old Jimmy Graham out there. Yeah, 1986 baby. You've got Cam Jordan, 34. Yeah, the 2010 NFL draft came up big for the Saints in this game. It's almost unbelievable that those guys are still playing at a respectable level at their ages. And, I think we also kind of do have to talk about the Giants defense because the Saints had their number. They knew what Wink was going to do.
Yeah, they absolutely knew what Wink was going to do. And there were times where Wink answered with the cross dog blitz, something that the Giants had a lot of success when they played Chicago last season. They really harassed Justin Fields with it. Well, they harassed Carr on 1/3 down with it. And I was like, nice, man. We saw the cross dog blitz, get him off the field. That's excellent. And then I think like 2 drives later, the Giants tried running it again. And it was a perfectly timed screen to Alvin Kamara that went for 16 yards or something like that. And I was just like, God, man, it just seemed like Pete Carmichael and the Saints offense knew when Wink Martindale was going to dial up pressure. They knew the timing of the offense was spot on, right? And it's funny because Chris Olave wasn't even there, but Carr and whatever receiver it was, whether it was A.T. Perry or whoever, right when they were turning around in their break at the sticks or whatever it was, Carr had the football delivered right on target. And that's one thing that's going to happen when you don't hit or harass Carr. He can really run a rhythm and timing offense very efficiently and well, and we saw that today.
Yeah, I think there were points where you could tell that he's been playing through an injury where he didn't have the same zip and velocity on his ball that we're used to seeing from him. But just in terms of his comfort and efficiency, he looked a lot like the Raiders' Derek Carr from back before he suffered that injury, when he had them looking like a perennial playoff team. Yeah, he wasn't spectacular. He only threw for 218 yards, but like you said, he was so efficient. His timing was so very good. And we kind of saw what can happen when a veteran quarterback who's in command of his offense comes up against Wink's defense and the coverage either doesn't hold up or they're not able to get pressure quickly. And we also kind of saw what happens with the Giants when the other team doesn't oblige them with turnovers.
Yeah, man. It's one thing. And there were like individual players that looked fine, but all in all, when you look at the defense, disappointment is the first word that really comes into our mind because we started seeing the defense really gel together, right? And at this moment, it just fell flat, and we're right back to where we were before this little winning streak. That was fun. It was a fun 3-week stint where the Giants slid down the draft order a little bit, Chris. But now they've effectively ruined their playoff hopes if they even had realistic ones to begin with.
Yeah, I'm not sure those playoff hopes were particularly realistic. They would have had to sweep the Eagles, and maybe they could get away with one if, maybe Jalen Hurts' illness lingers. Yeah, the Eagles maybe get a little bit too much Christmas cheer next week, but yeah, they were probably not going to make a very strong push to the playoffs. Now, just looking at it, the Giants did climb back up the draft order. They're back up to 6th. That's pending the outcome of the Bears-Browns game, which looks like it's could be headed to overtime, although the Browns are on the Chicago 17, and I'm going to guess they kick the field goal to win as time expires. So the Bears might jump back over the Giants, and man, I just this constant watching of the horse race for the top 10 in the draft. It's both wild and depressing.
In other notes from this game, Darren Waller returned, had 6 targets, caught 4 for 40 with one 29-yard gain. It was a long gain. It was like one of the only sparks on the offense where you were like, oh crap, nice.
Yeah.
We got Darren Waller back. It was a nice play, right? It was just like a little like skinny post, if you want to call it that, slant to the inside, I believe. And Waller was able to make something of it. It's nice to see Waller back on this offense. It's just unfortunate that the Giants couldn't do anything or establish any rhythm on the offensive side of the football. And we also saw Randy Bullock, our kicker, get hurt after booting a 50-yard field goal and then doing a kickoff. And Jamie Gillen, the Scottish Hammer, came in and kicked a 40-yard field goal, I think it was. I was like, oh, okay. And it was pretty damn good, Chris.
Yeah. It was. That was right down the middle. Like maybe we got to get Joe back on just to talk about Jamie Gillen. But the legend of Jamie Gillen continues to grow. Yeah, it started last year and in the preseason, kind of took it a little bit on the chin because I think his leg is almost too big at times, and he kind of hurts himself either out kicking his coverage or just booting it too far into the end zone, and sacrificing field position when maybe a little bit lighter touch would have resulted in a coffin corner kick. But this year he's been having a great season, and at this point I would say he should go to the Pro Bowl just based on the way he's punted and then coming through to almost give the Giants a puncher's chance in halftime.
Now, one more question before we get out of here, and I think it's something that we're going to be hearing all throughout the week. Who starts next week?
I think that might just come down to how DeVito's feeling.
You think it's that? So I'm more
I think that would be the excuse, because we did see Ben Bredeson step on him. I think the Giants could plausibly say he's questionable with an ankle, and they don't want to take a chance with the youngster, but I think they're going to want Tyrod Taylor's experience out there against the Eagles.
That's what I was leaning towards. And again, you have the Eagles coming on a short week soon because they play Monday night. We're not certain what's going to happen with the team or even who their quarterback is going to be, but I just wouldn't be shocked if Tyrod Taylor ends up being the starting quarterback for next week. And I just think maybe it's going to be something that's earned throughout practice. It's something that Brian Daboll likes to do, and we'll have to wait and see, but I'm sure it's going to be a huge topic of conversation.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how much the short week is going to matter for the Eagles, especially if Jalen Carter's healthy and all of that, because he looks like the guy who was just dominant for Georgia for 2 years. He was dominant on a dominant defense. We'll dig into it for our preview podcast, but I'm going to say right now, he is my biggest concern out of all of the concerns on the Eagles.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. Again, we'll have to wait and see exactly what the heck happens with the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Chris, do you have anything else before we get out of here? This was man, I already said it, but just a disappointing effort, disappointing game in general.
Yeah, definitely. I think disappointing is kind of the best way to describe it. Yeah, I like I said to lead off, something like this was always coming. I just didn't think it was going to be this week against this Saints team, because it really was setting up like it should have been a Giants win, maybe a hard fought win, but it should have been a Giants win. Instead, it almost seemed like a trap game for the Giants. Yeah, they're a young team. They do have to learn how to deal with success.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone though for tuning into the Chris and Nick show here on Big Blue View Radio. Wish we had better news to report on, but the New York Giants suffered yet another defeat, this time by the hands of the New Orleans Saints, 24-6, as the Giants dropped to 5-9. But please head on over to bigblueview.com to check out all of our written content about the New York Giants as we cover them heading into a divisional matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. But thank you everyone. Take care of each other and have a lovely day.